poverty are living in working households. How is that possible? Low pay, a squeeze on benefits, and the high costs of renting a home are being blamed. Our social affairs editor, Jackie, poverty in your chin. And we'd like to see all of it, frankly.
Can you see me now?
We can see even less of you. OK, I've got to leave it there. But another time. Mairead McGuinness, thank you very much indeed. There we go. OK. Well, figures out today show that there are now more than 4 million children living in poverty in the UK. That is an increase of 500,000 since 2012. Although the government frequently boasts that we have record numbers of people in employment, most of the children in poverty are living in working households. How is that possible? Low pay, a squeeze on benefits, and the high costs of renting a home are being blamed. Our social affairs editor, Jackie Long, is here. Jackie, tell us more.
Well, this is a stark reminder that beyond the Brexit debates at Westminster, life goes on. And for some people, that life is very difficult. These figures show that effectively household income stagnated last year. Two other grim headlines: 200,000 more children fell into poverty. And poverty is now rising fastest in the under fives. And we know that living in poverty in those early years can have a devastating impact on your life chances later on. Now, I thought there was a sort of touch of Theresa May's burning injustices speech from Amber Rudd, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, when she was in the Commons today, when she said it was her mission to tackle child poverty, but particularly to make sure that every child in Britain could reach the highest heights and could dream big. But she acknowledged that more needed to be done. Now, we've been in Barrow in Cumbria, where very few people would disagree with that.
Oh, that looks my side. Yeah.
At St Mark's Church in Barrow, the line between those in need of help and those offering it is a fine one. Lisa provides tea and a listening ear to people she says are really struggling, even though she admits she's barely out of the woods herself.
I'd gone through a very difficult time in my own life and I wasn't really getting out as much. I'd been a carer, and when that ended, I'd realised what it was like to have nothing and to be quite isolated. You feel very frightened, actually, and when you start to get hungry, you haven't got the strength to do anything about it. But I think places like this give people a sense of worth.
3 years.
This is a clothes bank, but there's also food and the offer of friendship too.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
I spent half my time today just talking to people.
Judith's our social worker. I think it's disgusting that it's come to this, to be honest. You know, and people have to come, you know, to get clothes for the kids or for themselves, and also go to food banks.
Today's figures show 700,000 more people fell into relative poverty, and for some children, the news is bleaker still. According to analysis of today's figures, 4.1 million children are in poverty. That's an increase of 500,000 since 2011-2012. Of these, 72% are living in working households. Amongst children, poverty is rising fastest among the under fives, with 1 in 3 preschool children now living in poverty.
Did you find it quite isolating?
Dean McSkimmings had to give up work after being left to bring up his 2 children alone when they were just 2 and 7. He says starting on the benefit universal credit left him with spiralling debt, unable to afford the basics.
The food and school uniform, you know, taking my kids to school and walking into that playground and, you know, your kids, you know, the school, you know, the shoes could be hanging off their feet sometimes.
Dean became a volunteer at this local charity. He credits them with helping him get back on his feet, and not just financially. He now works there part-time. It's given him hope, he says. He'll be able to afford things for the children. Until now, he's seen as luxuries.
Strawberries, grapes, you know, the fruit they want and they just can't afford. But with working over, you know, over the last 12 months, I can start getting that again. I have been able to start getting that again.
In Parliament today, the poverty figures up for debate, a brief respite from Brexit. Labour branded them a national disgrace. But the government insisted the most vulnerable were an absolute priority.
Today's statistics capture household incomes up to April 2018. Since then, we have had nearly a year of real wage growth. And this government has made significant changes to increase the incomes of the poorest since then, injecting an extra £1.7 billion per annum into universal credit in the 2018 budget alone.
But campaigners say still not enough is being done.
And what we're not seeing is these figures getting better. If we were seeing sustained investment from the government, real policy change, a tackling of the burning injustices that the Prime Minister once talked about, and what we actually need to see is a government recognising those millions of people in poverty and starting to do something for them. Make sure their jobs pay properly, make sure their housing is cheaper, and make sure the social security system and universal credit actually helps people out of poverty.
Meanwhile, back at the church, the network of volunteers work on. At the clothes bank set up to help people in a crisis, but which has become a permanent feature.
Jackie Long reporting there. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Sophia Walker from Little Village, a charity which provides essentials for children, and to Patrick Spencer from the conservative-leaning think tank, the Centre for Social Justice.
The families we see at Little Village are living really on the edge of crisis. They're battling with a kind of a perfect storm of low wages, benefit freezes, difficult housing conditions, very expensive childcare, and really they have no cushion to fall back on. So a seemingly small issue like a broken washing machine or a car that needs fixing can kind of send those families into a spiral of further crisis around debt. Housing difficulties.
And you see families coming back over and over again?
It varies. We do see some families coming back. We know, though, that the families we're seeing a lot more families than we were this time last year. We've already seen 700 families this year, which is twice what we'd seen this time last year. And we are seeing families who are really struggling, families who are having to ration nappies while they're working, kids growing up in very damp accommodation, children walking around shoes too small for them, no winter coat.
Patrick Spencer, I mean, the government keeps telling us that, we're living through the best employment records ever. Never have this many people been in work as they are now. And yet at the same time, the numbers of kids in poverty is now 4.1 million. That is an astonishing fact.
I agree. Something's going on here, and we need to get to the bottom of it. On the work issue, I think it's really important to reaffirm the simple statistical proof that with a job, you are 4 times less likely to be in poverty than if you were unemployed.
Sophia, is there a difference between, in terms of the people you see on the front line between in-work poverty and out-of-work poverty?
The situation, all the families coming to us are struggling. And I think what's really clear, more than 2 in 3 poor kids have a family, someone in work in their household. Something's not working with the economy. We may have record employment, but the economy is not working for everybody, and that is very clear.
I think a lot of people take that and blame 0-hours contracts, atypical work, low-paid work.
Do you agree with that criticism?
I think that's a very fair criticism. But like I said, it's slightly more complicated than that. Without a flexible labour market, I'm worried that the people Sophia talks about are actually going to be left out of the labour market altogether.
How have we got to a place where we can employ more and more people, but at the same time, they're not able to do the most basic things for their own families? That's really something that's not been answered yet.
It's not right, and we need to sort it out. But thinking that jobs have no impact on someone's well-being is totally the wrong conclusion to draw.
Okay, is there another problem here, Sophia, that as we create more kind of temporary structures, to look after people who can't look after themselves, that we're creating a demand that wasn't there before?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think we have uncovered a level of need that is not acceptable in 21st century Britain. And I think one of the real challenges with poverty today is it's very hidden. It's hidden behind the leafy streets and the front doors of what does look on the surface like a wealthy city. We're not dealing with people necessarily living on the street. We're dealing with people living in hostels, in accommodation that often you don't even know is there as you walk past it.
Patrick Spencer, finally, I mean, unless we can have an honest conversation about levels of poverty in this country, and we stop hiding behind statistics that are frankly meaningless for the reality of the lives that you are seeing every day, we will never improve their situation.
I completely agree. And I want to put it on the record that I don't disagree with Sophia's understanding of what poverty is. I think everything she sees on a daily basis, it's a real problem that we have to deal with. Where we perhaps differ is that our solutions are different. I believe the best way to support someone in the long term is to help them develop that dignity and independence that comes with a job, a secure job and a decent wage. It's not perhaps to revert back to the old system that we had pre-2010, which was jam the welfare system.
The key thing you said there is a secure job and a decent wage.
Absolutely.
What we have at the moment is lots of people in insecure jobs on indecent wages.
And that's got to change. So we do agree.
Thanks to both of you. Sophia Parker, Patrick Spencer, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, on the day that Facebook announced it would ban white nationalist content, Channel 4 News has obtained internal Facebook emails which raise questions over its approach to remove